Good day everyone. I am Maria Tensian Inerga from HRDM2. I will now discuss the topic regarding Marketing Management Chapter 6. We are the group 4 that will discuss with you today. And what came to my topic was the first one. Is the analyzing business markets and buyer behavior. What is organizational buying? The business markets versus the consumer market, and the last one is the institutional market. Before we get to my topic, I would like to introduce myself to you, find out my information, and what I want in life. Again, I am Maria Tensian Inerga, 20 years old, live in San Jose Rodriguez Rizal, and currently studying at the University of Rizal System, Rodriguez Campus. Second year college and course is Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, major in Human Resource Management. And I want to share with you my hobbies. My first hobby is dancing. I love dancing since I was a child. I participate in barangay competitions, even in malls dance competitions. My mom pushed me and she is the most supportive mother for me. I also joined cheer dance when I was in junior and senior high school. And now, I'm the one of the dancers of the URS campus troupe. And my second hobby is cooking. I like cooking, especially when we have a party, because we have a bonding family and I also learn how to cook. My other hobbies are watching movies, reading webtoon, and playing online games. I play them when I have nothing to do at home and have nothing to do activities, assignments, and reports in school. And I'm also a member of Human Resources Executive Management Society, URS Rodriguez. And for my educational background is when I was in elementary school, I attended Casiglahan Village Elementary School in the year of 2007 to 2012. And for my secondary, I attended Casiglahan Village National High School in the year 2012 to 2016. In senior high school is in College of Arts and Sciences of Asia and the Pacific or CASAP, year of 2017 to 2019. And now, I am studying at the University of Rizal System, Rodriguez Campus. And my Gmail account is tensian04@gmail.com. And last, in my personal information, I will share with you my aspiration and motto in life. My motto is, if you believe, you can achieve. Believe in your own ability so that you can fulfill your wish in the future. For me, not everything is a rush. When you believe, especially in your own ability, it will probably result in something better and bigger than you want. Let us just learn, wait, and trust in everything. As a student, I aspire to be a successful businesswoman. I will use what I have learned to use it and share it with other people. And now, as a student, I want to finish my education first to fulfill my dream to become a human resource manager and having my own business. I will help my family and people who help me. And that's all for my personal information. Thank you so much for listening about myself. Now, let's move on to my topic. The analyzing business, markets, and buyer behavior. We will address the following questions. What is the business market and how does it differ from consumer market? How do institutions and government agencies do their buying? What buying situations do organizational buyers face? Who participates in business buying? And what are the influences on business buying decisions? Last, how do business buyers make their decisions? Me and my group can answer all those questions. All you have to do is listen and understand our topic. For Chapter 6, Marketing Management is analyzing business, markets, and buyer behavior. Analyzing business markets and buyer behavior is business buyer seeks to obtain for his or her organization the best package of economic, technical, service, and social benefits in relation to a market offering's cost. In reality, a business buyer, like a consumer, will have more incentive to choose the offering with the highest ratio or of perceived benefits to cost. That is, the highest perceived value. The marketer must therefore provide an offering that delivers superior customer value to the target business buyers and be familiar with the underlying dynamics and process of business buying. For example, if car companies falter, then tire companies will suffer. So, companies not only have to monitor business market but also pay attention to end consumer market. Buying for the business is a responsibility of purchase department which adheres to company rules and regulations. The buying decision is influenced by many players ranging from technical experts to the finance department. This means that sales people have to do multiple visits and present information to different departments. In the business market, there is no distribution channel, thereby reducing overhead costs. And analyzing business and buyer behavior is also business buyers purchase goods and services to achieve specific goals, such as making money, reducing operating costs, and satisfying social or legal obligations. A market consists of two parts, consumer market and business market. Companies manufacture products for consumer market but business market is equally large and strong. Typical business market consists of manufacturing plants, machinery, industrial equipments, and etc. Companies need to study and analyze factors affecting business markets and business buying behavior. For example, a mini-mill steelmaker like Nucor will add another plant if it sees a chance to boost profits, upgrade its computerized accounting system to reduce operating costs, and add pollution control equipment to meet legal requirements. And the second topic is, what is organizational buying? According to Webster in Wind, is the decision-making process by which formal organizations establish in need for purchase products and services and identify, evaluate, and choose among alternative brands and suppliers. Organizational buying is influenced by derived demand. That is, demand for an end product or for a product or services sold by the buyer's customers. The demand for components by manufacturer will be dependent on demand coming from their customers, the retailers and wholesalers, who in turn are reacting to demand from their customers. The customers' overall demand may in turn be impacted by economic, social, political, and technological factors in the environment. In such situations, a simple is check assuming that this simple or sample represents the entire lot. Like the consumer markets, organizational markets also possess certain demand characteristics. The organizational demand is products or services may be inelastic, derived, joint, or fluctuating in the nature. Normally, purchase the goods or services for producing other goods and services. Using these raw materials, there are also resellers who purchase the products to sell directly to the customers without any modifications. Apart from producers and resellers, there are also government and institutional customers who buy the goods. Government buys goods for public utility or for use in their departments for production processes or purposes. And now, let's go to the business market versus the consumer market. Business market consists of all the organizations that acquire goods and services used in the production of other products or services that are sold, rented, or supplied to other customers. The major industries making up the business market are agriculture, forestry, fisheries, mining, manufacturing, construction, transportation, communication, public utilities, banking, finance, and insurance, distribution, and services. The business market versus the consumer market is also from US marketers can learn more about specific industries by consulting the North American Industry Classification System, a categorized listing of all the industries operating in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Consider the process of producing and selling a simple pair of shoes. Hide dealers must sell hides to tanners, who sell leather to shoes manufacturers, who sell shoes to wholesalers, who sell shoes to retailers, who finally sell them to consumers. Along the way, each party in the supply chain also has to buy many other goods and services, which means that every business seller is business buyer as well. From the number and size of buyers to geographical location, demand, and buyer behaviors, business markets have a number of characteristics contrast sharply with those of consumer markets. These characteristics are described in Table 3 and 3 later on. Understanding the impact of these characteristics can help a supplier target business buyers and more effectively. For example, sells circuit breakers, motor starters, and other electrical equipment to industrial manufacturers such as Ford Motor. As its products line grew larger and more complex, developed pods or of salespeople that focus on a particular geographical region, industry, or market concentration. Each individual brings a degree to expertise about a product or service that the offer members of the team can take to the customer. This allows the salespeople to leverage the knowledge of coworkers to sell to increasingly suffocated buying teams instead of working in isolations. Example, in business markets, a selling strategy focuses on personal contract or contact rather than advertising. In customer markets, purchase volume is much larger. Consumers are fewer in number and more geographically concentrated, and distribution channels and more direct. And now, let's proceed to the table 3.3, characteristics of business markets. The first characteristics is fair buyers. Fair buyers, business marketers normally deal with fair buyers than do consumers marketers. Example is, Goodyear Tire Company aims to get orders from buyers for the Big Three US automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Daimler Chrysler. The second characteristic is larger buyers. Larger buyers, that buyers for a few large firms do most of the purchasing in the many industries. Example is, major companies are big customers in industries such as aircraft engines and defense weapons. The third characteristic is close supplier-customer relationship with the smaller customer based on the importance and power of the larger customers. Suppliers are frequently required to customize offerings, practices, and performance to meet the needs of individual customers. The example is tooling suppliers, Stillwater Technologies, shares office and manufacturing space with key customer Motoman. A supplier of industrial robots is minimize delivery distances and enhance the symbiotic working relationship. The next is geographically concentrated buyers. More than half of U.S. business buyers are concentrated in 7 states: New York, California, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, New Jersey, and Michigan, which helps to reduce selling costs. Example is because the big three U.S. automakers have their U.S. headquarters in the Detroit area, industry suppliers had their own sales calls. The second and the next characteristic is derived demand. Derived demand is the demand for business goods is ultimately derived from the demand for customer goods, so business marketers must monitor the buying patterns of ultimate consumers. The example is the big three U.S. automakers are seeing higher demand for steel bar products, mostly derived from consumers' demand for minivans and other light trucks, which consume far more steel than cars. And the next characteristic is inelastic demand. Inelastic demand is total demand for many business, goods, and services is inelastic and not much affected by price changes, especially in the short run, because producers cannot make quick production changes. Example is shoe manufacturers will not buy more much leather if the price of leather falls, nor will they buy much less leather if the price rises unless they can find satisfactory substitutes. Next is fluctuating demand. Demand for business products tends to be more volatile than demand for consumers' products. An increase in consumer demand can lead to a much larger increase in demand for plant and equipment need to produce the additional output. The example is an increase of only 10% in consumer demand for computers might result in 2,000 or no, is 200% increase in business demand for related parts, supplies, and services. A lot 10% drop in consumer demand for computers might cause a complete collapse in business demands. And now, let's continue the characteristics of business markets. The other characteristics is professional purchasing. Professional purchasing is trained purchasing agents follow organizational purchasing policies, constraints, and requirements to buy business products. Many of buying instruments, such as proposals and purchase contracts, are not typical of consumer buying. Example, programs on the Kisha system website allow purchasing agents to research, select, and price new networking systems at any hour and obtain speedily online answers about product, orders, and service. The next is multiple buying influences. Multiple buying influences is more people typically influence business buying decisions. Buying committees are common in the purchase of major goods. Marketers have to send well-trained sales reps and often sales teams to deal with these well-trained buyers. Example is metal supplier Dodge uses an account management approach to reach all the key people who influence business buying decisions in customer organizations. The next characteristic is multiple sales calls. Multiple sales calls is with more people involved in the process. It takes multiple sales calls to win most business orders, and the sales cycle can take years. Example is, in the case of major capital equipment sales, customers may take multiple attempts to fund a product or project. A job in delivering the product is often measured in years. The second is direct purchasing. Direct purchasing is business buyers often buy directly from manufacturers rather than through intermediaries, especially items that are technically complex or expensive. Example is, in the case of the major capital equipment sales, customer may take multiple attempts to fund a project, and the sales cycle between quoting a job and delivering the product is often measured in years. Southeast Airlines, Madagascar, and other airlines around the world buy airplanes directly from Boeing. Next is reciprocity. Business buyers often select suppliers to also buy from them. Example is, a proper manufacturer buys chemicals from a chemical company that buys a considerable amount of its paper. And the last characteristic of business market is leasing. Leasing, many industrial buyers lease rather than buy heavy equipment to conserve capital, get the latest product, receive better service, and gain tax advantages. The lesser often makes more profit and sells to customers who could not afford outright purchase. The example is, General Electric lease truck and car fleets, aircraft, commercial trailers, and other major equipment products to business buyers. And now let's proceed to specialized organizational markets. The overall business market includes institutional and government organizations in addition to profit-seeking companies. However, the buying goals, needs, and methods of these two specialized organizational markets are generally different from those of businesses, something firms must keep in mind when planning their business marketing strategies. Markets in which companies and individuals purchase goods for purposes other than personal consumption. These markets are characterized by having few buyers, fair buyers, but larger purchase volumes than consumer markets do. All the individuals and companies who purchase goods and services for some use that other than personal consumption. Organizational markets usually have fair buyers but purchase in far greater amounts than consumer markets and are more geographically concentrated. As we've been learning, people purchasing for personal use frequently build emotional and psychological bonds with some of the brands they buy. People want to brands that they use to make them feel good inside. Yet, many of these very same people go to work making purchases on behalf of their companies, and in the process could not care less about how those brands make them feel inside. In other words, the same human being apply very different processes and criteria to the purchases they make to true for themselves versus purchases they make for their companies. For example, a consumer might buy 3 gallons of white paint to paint his house, while an organization might need 3,000 gallons to paint shelving units for resale. The organizational market is thus more complex. It is possible to have a business succeed catering only to a small number of organizational clients, while businesses that typically focus on consumers sell smaller quantities to more people. That said, Costco and similar wholesale warehouse companies do successfully market low price, high quantity goods to individual consumers. These consumers tend to buy for small office space of family, homes, however, rather than only for themselves. And the last part of my topic is institutional market. The institutional market consists of schools, hospitals, nursing homes, prisons, and health institutions that provide goods and services to people in their care. Many of these organizations have low budgets and captive clientless. For example, hospitals have to decide what quality of food to buy of their patients. The buying objective here is not profit because the food is provided to the patients as part of total service package. Is cost minimization of the sole object because poor food will cause patients to complain and hurt the hospital's reputation. The hospital purchasing agent has to search for institutional food vendors whose quality meets or exceeds a certain minimum standards and whose prices are low. Knowing this, many food vendors set as a separate division to respond to the special needs of institutional buyers. For example, will produce, package, and price its ketchup differently to meet the different requirements of hospitals, colleges, and prisons. Being a supplier of choice for the nation's schools or hospitals means big business for marketers such as Allegiance Healthcare. And that's all for my report. Thank you for listening.
So, hello HR managers. Before I start my report, let me introduce myself to all of you. Hi, I'm Angeli Obanya Manaog. My course is BSBA HRDM2 and I'm 20 years old, being kind and gorgeous in this world. My hobbies are playing with my babies, which is my dog because they are my babies. Also, I dance in TikTok, taking selfies, watching movies, hang out with my friends, and do my duties in church. And I'm a member of the Human Resources Executive Management Society at URS Rodriguez. So as you can see in your screen, that is my educational background and this is my achievements. My aspirations and motto in life is, my motto is, time is gold, so if you want my time, just give me gold. Gold is precious, so are me. Treat me well, then I'll turn it back to you. I'm not just a typical girl. When you have me, your life is like a shining, shimmering, splendid. As a student, I aspire to become a business manager, having a financial stability, and to establish dog pounds. I really aspire most especially to become successful in my area of expertise, which is being a HR manager. Kidding aside, let's move on to my topic, which is the government market. In most countries, government organizations are a major buyer of goods and services. Government organization typically require suppliers to submit bids. Normally, they award the contract to the lowest bidder, although they sometimes take into account a supplier's superior quality or reputation for completing contracts on time. So, government organization is reputation for completing contract on time because their spending decisions are subject to public review. Government organizations require considerable documentation from suppliers who often complain about excessive paperwork, bureaucracy, regulations, decision-making delays, and shifts in procurement personnel. Consider the experience of ADI Technology Corporation. The U.S. government has always been ADI's most important client, accounting for about 90% of its nearly $6 million in annual revenues. Yet, managers at this professional services company often shake their heads at all the work that goes in winning the coveted government contracts. So, a comprehensive bid proposal will run from 500 to 700 pages, and ADI's president estimates that the firm has spent as much as 20,000, mostly in worker hours, to prepare a single bid proposal. Fortunately for businesses of all sizes, the federal government has been putting reforms in place to streamline buying procedures. Now, the government is moving all purchasing online with the use of web-based technologies such as digital signatures. Several federal agencies that act as a purchasing agent for the rest of the government have already launched web-based catalogs, allowing defense and civilian agencies to buy everything from medical and office supplies to clothing through online purchasing. State and local governments are following suit. The city of Fort Collins, Colorado, for example, announces its buying needs, posts requests for proposals, and offers downloads of standard supplier documents on its website. Internal-based purchasing has enabled Fort Collins to more efficiently buy computers, flooring, and ever-widening range of goods for city use. A number of major companies such as Gateway, Rockwell Kodak, and Goodyear make a special effort to anticipate the needs and projects of the government market. In this market, success comes to firms that participate in the product specification phase, gather competitive intelligence, prepare bids carefully, and produce strong communication to enhance their company's reputations. So, let's move on to the four main functions of government in a market economy. The first is efficiency. The government should attempt to correct market failures like monopoly and excessive pollution to ensure efficient functioning of the economic system. Externalities or social costs occur when firms or people impose costs or benefits on others outside the marketplace. So, number two, infrastructure. The government should provide an integrated infrastructure. Infrastructure or social overhead capital refers to those activities that enhance directly or indirectly output levels or efficiency in production. So, number three, equality. Markets do not necessarily produce a distribution of income that is regarded as social fair or equitable. As market economy, state and local governments are following suit. The city of Fort Collins, Colorado, for example, announces its buying needs, posts requests for proposals, and offers downloads of standard supplier documents on its website. Internal-based purchasing has enabled Fort Collins to more efficiently buy computers, flooring, and ever-widening range of goods for city use. A number of major companies such as Gateway, Rockwell Kodak, and Goodyear make a special effort to anticipate the needs and projects of the government market. In this market, success comes to firms that participate in the product specification phase, gather competitive intelligence, prepare bids carefully, and produce strong communication to enhance their company's reputations. So, let's move on to the four main functions of government in a market economy. The first is efficiency. The government should attempt to correct market failures like monopoly and excessive pollution to ensure efficient functioning of the economic system. Externalities or social costs occur when firms or people impose costs or benefits on others outside the marketplace. So, number 2, infrastructure. The government should provide an integrated infrastructure. Infrastructure or social overhead capital refers to those activities that enhance directly or indirectly output levels or efficiency in production. So, number 3, equality. Markets do not necessarily produce a distribution of income that is regarded as social fair or equitable, as market economy such as the importance of the product and its overall cost are highly considered before making the purchase. Such buying situation includes a list of products that we have never or rarely purchased from the markets. So the example of that is organization often purchase supercomputers, buildings, and high voltage generators that often require months to be delivered at the desired location. Therefore, many businesses buyers prefer to buy a total solution to their problem from one seller. This practice, called systems buying, originated with government purchases of major weapons and communication systems. So, for example, many auto parts manufacturers now sell whole systems, such as the seating system, the braking system, or the door system. A variant on system selling is system contracting, in which a single supply source provides the buyer with all required MRO supplies. MRO supplies are maintenance, repair, and operating supplies. This lowers the buyer's cost because the seller maintains the inventory. Less time is spent on supplier selection, and the buyer enjoys price protection during the life of the contract. The seller benefits from lower operating costs because of steady demand and reduced paperwork. So, system selling is a key industrial marketing strategy in bidding to build large-scale industrial projects such as dams, steel factories, and pipelines. Project engineering firms must compete on price, quality, reliability, and other attributes with this contract. So, for example, when the Indonesian government requested bids to build a cement factory near at Jakarta, U.S. firm made a proposal that included choosing the site, designing the cement factory, hiring the construction crews, assembling the materials and equipment, and turning over the finished factory to the Indonesian government. The proposal of a Japanese bidder include all of these services plus hiring and training the factory workers, exporting the cement and using the cement to build roads and office buildings around Jakarta. Although the Japanese proposal was more costly, it won. This is true system selling. The firm took the broadest view of its customers' needs and positioned itself as an economic development agency. Why does the buying of the trillions of dollars worth goods and services needed by business organizations? Purchasing agents are influential in straight rebuy and modified rebuy situations, whereas other department personnel are more influential in new buy situation. So engineering personnel carry the most influence in selecting product components, and purchasing agents dominate in selecting suppliers. These are just some of the people who may be part of the buying center. So the buying center, Webster and Wind called the decision-making unit of a buying organization the buying center. The buying center is composed of all those individuals and groups who participate in the purchasing decision-making process, who share some common goals and the risks arising from the decision. The buying center includes organizational members who plays any of 7 roles in the purchase decision process. First is initiators. People who request that something be purchased, including users or others. The users. Those who will use the product or service, often users initiate the buying proposal and help define product requirements. The influencers. People who influence the buying decision, including technical personnel. They often help define specification and also provide information for evaluating alternatives. The deciders, those who decide on product requirements or on suppliers. And lastly, the approvers, people who authorize the proposed action of deciders or buyers. So that's all. Thank you. Solicit bids from prime contractors who assemble the package or system. The contractor who
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmate. This is my report. Major influences on business buying. First is my personal information. My name is Kimberly C. Kudoy. Course, BA HRDM2. 20 years old. My hobbies is playing online games and dancing. Member of Human Resources Executive Management Society. My educational background. University of Rizal System, Rodriguez Campus, Second Year College, this year 2020. Liberato P. Tacarda Senior High School. School year 2017-2019. Liberato P. Tacarda Senior High School. School year 2013-2017. Vidal Bacolod Memorial School, School year 2007-2013. My inspiration and motto in life. It's more fun to be yourself than copy anyone else. Because I just want to be just myself. I don't want to waste my time copying other people. As a student, I aspired to become a business manager and to make my dreams all come true. Major influences on business buying. Business buyers respond to many influences when they make their decision. When suppliers' offerings are similar, buyers can satisfy the purchasing requirements with any they place more weight on the personality treatment they receive. Business buyers are influenced heavily by factors in the current and expected environment economic, just as the level of primary demand, the economic outlook, and the cost of the money. When economic uncertainty rises, business buyers cut back their new investment and attempt to utilize their inventories. There are the four main influences impact the business buying decision process. First is the environmental factors. Environmental factors within the microenvironment business, buyers pay close attention to numerous economic factors, including interest rates and level of production, investment in plant, equipment, and inventories. Environmental factors include temperature, food, pollutants, population density, sound, light, and parasite. The diversity of environmental stresses that have been shown to cause an increase in any asymmetry is probably not exclusive. Many other kinds of stress might provide similar effects. There are the five environmental factors. First is exposure to hazardous substances in the air, water, soil, and food. Natural and technological disaster. Climate change. Occupational hazards. The built environment. Next is the organizational factors. Very organizations has specific purchasing objectives, structures, and system. Marketers need to be aware of the following organizational trends in purchasing. Organizational influencing factors can be taught as operational attributes, processes, or conditions. within the organization or organizational factors affecting collaboration can include structure and philosophy, team resources, and administrative support, as well as communication and coordination mechanism. It is an example of an organizational factors. Organizational influences are reflected in numerous factors, such as shared values, norms and beliefs, structure, competence, policies, and procedures. Next is purchasing department upgrading. Spurred by the competitive pressures, companies are staffing their purchasing departments with members who aspire to be a CEO like Thomas Stockham. Discover the top objectives of the most business purchasing department. Companies work closely with their vendors to develop their processes and assist them in improving quality. Effective purchasing decision helps to enhance the performance of an organization, as elaborated below. Optimal amount of purchasing materials increases the bargaining power of a company. Hence, it would help to reduce the operational cost of company. Second is cross-functional roles. In a recent survey, most purchasing professionals described their job as more strategic, technical, theme-oriented, and involving more responsibility than everyone before. A cross-functional team is a group of people with different functional expertise working toward a common goal. It was include people from finance, marketing, operations, and human resources department. Decision-making within a team mainly depend on consensus, but often a lead by a manager, coach, or team leader. They are the example of cross-functional team. Are groups consisting of people from different functional areas of the company. For example, marketing, product, sales, and customer success. Centralized purchasing is the control by one headquarters department of all purchasing that is. Next is centralized purchasing. In multi-divisional companies, mass purchasing is carried out separate decision because of their differing needs. Central purchase refers to purchasing all of the requirements under the central point of the organization. Likewise, this decentralized refers to purchasing a requirements of each production center in an organization. McDonald's is a prime example of centralized management and standardization. An exact sum number of pickles is put on each burger, no matter where you are in the world. Airlines do this too. You will get the exact same brand or bottled water on every airline in the same brand. Next is decentralized purchasing of small ticket item. More companies are decentralizing selected purchasing operation by empowering employees or purchase small tickets items such as special vendors or coffee makers. What is decentralized purchasing management? With this method, rather than leaving the purchasing control with a single department, it is granted to local branches or departments. They have the authority to purchase items necessary as per requirements. In a decentralized organization, lower level in the organizational hierarchy can make decisions. An example of decentralized organization is a fast food franchise chain. Each franchise restaurant in the chain is responsible for its own operation. Next is internet purchasing. By 2003, business to business buying on the internet is protected to each 1 trillion per year, compared with the projected 108 billion for cost per consumer buying. The more to internet purchasing has dramatic and far-reaching implication. Internet purchasing, example of internet purchasing, online shopping is a form of electronic commerce which allows consumer to directly buy goods or services from a seller over the internet. Commerce, also known as electronic commerce or internet commerce, refers to the buying and selling of goods or services using the internet and the transfer of money and data to execute this transaction. Next is long-term contracts. Business buyers are the increasingly initiating or accepting long-term contract with reliable suppliers. Examples of long-term contracts are construction type contract, development of military and commercial aircraft weapon, delivery system, and space exploration hardware. Long-term contract means is contract or more than 5 years in duration. Of a long-term contract is a contract of to perform work to another over an extended period of time. The performance of long-term differ from short-term contract. Next is purchasing performance evaluation and buyers of professional development. Many companies have set up incentive system to reward purchasing manager for good buying performance in much the same way the sales personnel receive bonuses for good selling performance. A purchasing and supply chain performance evaluation system represents a formal systematic approach to monitor and evaluate purchasing performance. Operational marketing is a process that the purchasing function follows when it performs branch making companies. Next is lean production. Many manufacturers have moved toward lean production, which enables them to produce a more high quality production at low cost in less time using less labor. It's an approach to management that process to cutting out waste whilst ensuring quality. This approach can be applied to all aspects of a business, from design through production to distribute. And lean production aims to cut costs by making the business more efficient and responsive to market needs. Next is interpersonal factors. And last is interpersonal factors. Buying centers usually include several participants with differing interests, authority status, empathy, and persuasiveness. Interpersonal communication is often defined as communication that takes place between people who are interdependent and have some knowledge of each other. For example, communications between a son and his father, an employer and an employee, two sisters and a teacher and a student, two lovers, two friends, and so on. Dito na po magtatapos ang aking report. Thank you po.
So, good morning everyone. I am the last reporter of this group. So, before I start with my report, I will introduce myself first. So, my name is Bernard O'Harmilio. Obviously, I am from URS, studying Human Resource Development Management. So my age is 20 and I was born August 30, 2000. Then my hobbies are watching anime, reading webtoon, playing mobile games like Mobile Legend, Wild Rift. Then currently I am playing Call of Duty Mobile. I am also member of Human Resources Executive Management Society in URS. In my college, obviously from URS, Rodriguez Campus, and in secondary, I studied at San Jose Litex Senior High School, year 2017 to 2019. While in my junior high school, I went to San Jose National High School, 2013 to 2017. Then in my primary, Yoyolo Rodriguez Junior Elementary School or ERES, year 2007 to 2013. Then achievement, Passer in Service Accounting, year 2018. Aspiration dream, to live a normal and happy life. Simple as that, no explanation needed. Motto in life, if there's an opportunity, grab it, because opportunity wasn't created to be found you. Yeah, it is hard to live with regrets. So, grab it if you see an opportunity. So, let's start with discussion. By the way, individual factors is one of the major influences on business buying. Individual factors. Each buyer carries personal motivation, perception, and preferences as influenced by buyer's age, income, education, job position, personality, attitudes towards risk, and culture. Moreover, buyers definitely exhibit different buying styles. They are responsible for buying raw materials done for the company, which are used for business processes and for making the final products. For example, some younger, highly educated buyers are expert at conducting rigorous computerized analysis of competitive proposal before choosing a supplier. Other buyers are tourists from old school and pit competitors against one another. Understanding these factors can better prepare marketers for dealing with individuals within the buyer center. Some of the important personal factors that influence the buying behavior are lifestyle, economic situation, occupation, age, personality, and self-concept. So let's proceed to the cultural factors. Savvy marketers carefully study the culture and the custom of each country or region where they want to sell their products to better understand the cultural factors that can affect buyers and buying the organization. For example, in Germany, business people prefer to be introduced by their full, correct titles and they shake hands at both at the beginning and the end of the business meetings. Cultural differences causes behavior and personality differences like body language, thinking communication, manners, norms, and etc. While here in the Philippines, it's common and there's no such a thing, isn't it? And here in cultural factors, it is all about differences. Marketers that sell to firms in other nations must be aware of such a cultural attitudes and practices because they permeate business to business transactions. If they have sufficient knowledge of cultures, they can make good and acceptable strategies for their business. So let's proceed for my next topic, which is the purchasing or procurement process. Procurement is the act of obtaining goods or services, typically for business purposes. So in industrial buying, it passes through 8 stages called buy phases. Like what I said, it is a series of stages that individuals or groups go through when making purchasing decision, as identified by Robinson and Associate in the buy grid framework shown in table 3.4. In modified rebuy or straight rebuy situation, some of these stages are compressed or bypassed. For example, in straight rebuy situation, the buyer normally has a favorite supplier or a ranked list of supplier. Thus, the supplier search and proposal solicitation are skipped. In the section that follow, we examine each of the 8 stages for typical new task buying situation. So here's the stage 1, which is problem recognition. The buying process begins when someone in the company recognizes a problem or need that can be met by acquiring a good or services. The recognition can be triggered by internal or external stimuli. Internally, problem recognition commonly occurs when a firm decides to develop a new products and needs new equipment and materials sa loob ng company. When a machine breaks down and requires new parts, when purchased material turns out to be unsatisfactory, and when purchasing manager senses an opportunity to obtain lower prices or better quality. Wherein, externally, problem recognition can occur when a buyer gets new ideas at a trade show, sees a supplier's ad, or contracted by a sales representative offering a better product or a lower prices. For their part, business marketers can stimulate problem recognition by their recommendation, telemarketing, effective internet communication, and calling on prospects. The next stage is stage 2, the general need description. In this stage, once a problem has been recognized, the buyer has to determine the needed items, general characteristics, and the required quantity. For standard items, this is not very involved process. Standard meaning common or normal item. While for complex items, meaning it's complicated. In this item, the buyer will work with others, engineers, users, and so on to define the needed characteristics. This may include durability, price, or other attributes. In this stage, business marketers can assist buyers by describing how their products will meet such needs. So let's proceed with stage 3, product specification. With the general need description in hand, the buying organization can develop the items technical specification. Often, the company will assign product value analysis or PVA engineering team to the project. So let's define first what is the product value analysis. It is an approach to cost reduction in which components are carefully studied to determine if they can be redesigned or standardized or made by cheaper methods of production. For example, the PVA team will examine the high-cost components in a given product because 20% of parts usually account for 80% of the cost of manufacturing it. The team will also identify over-designed products components that last longer than the product itself. Then, decide on the optimal product characteristics. Tightly written specification will allow the buyer to refuse components that are too expensive or that fail to meet the specified standards. And suppliers, too, can use product value analysis as a tool for positioning themselves to win an account. By getting in early and influencing buyer specification, a supplier can significantly increase its chances of being chosen. So in this stage, it describes technical criteria or specification. So the next stage is stage 4, supplier search. The buyer now tries to identify the most appropriate supplier by examining the trade directories, doing a computer search, phoning other firms for recommendation, or scanning trade advertisement, and attending trade shows. Kumbaga, maghahanap ka ng magsusupply sa'yo. However, these days, most likely the place to look in the internet. This levels the playing field because smaller suppliers have the same advantages as the largest one and can be listed in the same online catalogs for a nominal fee. So, in order to get noticed during this buy phase, the supplier should get listed in a major online catalogs or service, develop communication to reach buyers who are seeking new suppliers, and to build a good reputation in the marketplace. So take note guys, in this stage, suppliers who lack capacity or have a poor reputation will be rejected, while those who qualify may be visited by the buyer's agent who will examine their facilities and meet their personnel. After evaluating each company, the buyer will end up with a short list of qualified suppliers. Well, it's as common that if you are searching for a supplier, obviously you will choose the good one, isn't it? After all, it will affect the whole. So, Next stage, stage 5, proposal solicitation. In this stage, the buyer is ready to invite qualified suppliers to submit proposal. When the item is complex or expensive, the buyer will require a detailed written proposal from each qualified supplier. After evaluating the proposal, the buyer will invite a few suppliers to make a formal presentation. So, business marketers must be skilled in researching, writing, and presenting proposal. The written proposal should be marketing documents, not just technical documents. Their oral presentation should inspire confidence, positioning their company's capabilities and resources so that they stand out from competition. So, a solicited proposal is when they ask a proposal, they may ask verbally or they may issue a written request for proposal. As simple as that. However, a supplier's first priority during this stage is to become qualified or in some cases to become certified. So it will be invited to submit proposal or matatanggap or let's say ma-accept. So let's say in this stage, it's the process wherein you are requesting proposal from qualified suppliers. But of course, it is not easy to find qualified suppliers though. So after stage 4 and 5, which is supplier search and proposal solicitation, the next stage is supplier selection. So in this stage, to further understand what supplier selection really is, well, we all know that it is hard to choose even the simplest thing. So what's more if it's supplier? So supplier selection. Before selecting a supplier, the buyer center will specify desired supplier attributes such as product reliability and service reliability and indicate their relative importance. It will then rate each suppliers on these attributes to identify the most attractive one. So at this point, the buyer may attempt to negotiate with preferred suppliers for better prices and terms for making the final selection. Despite moves towards strategic sourcing, partnering, and participation in cross-functional teams, buyers still spend a large chunk of their time handling overprice, which remain a key criterion for supplier selection. It is something like best offer wins. So you must be a best to choose you. So it's a pressure for you because it's hard to decide. It could cause bankruptcy or damage in the company. Marketers can counter a buyer's request for a lower price in the number of ways. They may be able to show the evidence that the life cycle cost of using the product is lower than the competitor's products. They can also cite the value of services the buyer now receives, especially where those services are superior to those offered by competitors. Solution selling can also elevate price pressure. Solution to enhance customer revenue, solution to reduce customer risk, solution to reduce customer costs. So, in number of suppliers, companies increasingly reducing the number of suppliers. It may be multiple sourcing, often cite threat of labor strike, or single sourcing. Supplier may become too comfortable and lose their competitive edge. I will give an example in order to further understand. Hewlett Packard, for example, has worked hard to become a trusted advisor to its customer, selling specific solutions to their unique problems. Along the way, HP discovered that some companies want a partner and others simply want a product that works. Still, the company estimates the trusted advisors approach has contributed to 60% growth of its high-end computer business. As a part of supplier selection process, buying centers must decide how suppliers to use. In the past, many companies prepared a large suppliers base to ensure adequate supplies and to obtain price concession. Out suppliers will try to get in the door by offering a special low price. Increasingly, however, companies are reducing the number of suppliers. Companies such as Ford and Motorola and Allied Signal have cut the number of suppliers anywhere from 20% to 80%. The suppliers who remain are responsible for larger component system for achieving continuous quality and performance improvements, and for lowering prices annually by given percentage. There is even a trend toward single sourcing using one supplier. The Knoxville News Sentinel and the New York Daily News newspaper both rely on single source for their newsprint. This makes it easier to control newsprint inventories and maintain paper consistency to avoid the time and expense of changing presses for different papers. So let's proceed to the second to the last stage, which is order routine specification. After selecting suppliers, the buyer negotiates the final order, listing the technical specification, the quantity needed, the delivery schedule, and so on. In the case of MRO items, buyers are moving toward blanket contracts rather than periodic purchase order. A blanket contract establishes a long-term relationship in which the supplier promises to resupply the buyer as needed at agreed-upon prices over the specified period, because the seller holds the stock. Blanket contracts are sometimes called stockless purchase plans. The buyer's computer automatically sends an order to the seller when the stock is needed, and the supplier arranges delivery and billing according to the blanket contract. While on the other hand, vendor management inventory, some companies shift the ordering responsibility to the suppliers. Suppliers take responsibility for replenishing automatically through continuous replenishment program. However, the blanket contracting leads to more single source buying and ordering of more items from that single source. This system locks suppliers in tighter with the buyer and make it difficult for out suppliers to break in unless the buyer become dissatisfied with the in supplier's prices, quality, or service. So the last stage of the purchasing or procurement process, which is the performance review. In the final stage of buying process, the buyer periodically reviews the performance of the chosen suppliers. Three methods are commonly used. Number one, the buyer may contact the end users and ask for the evaluation. Or the buyer may rate the suppliers on several criteria using weighted score method. Or the last, the buyer might aggregate the cost of per supplier performance to come up with adjusted cost of purchase, including price. The performance review may lead the buyer to continue, modify, or end the relationship with supplier. Therefore, to stay in the running for future purchases, suppliers should monitor their performance carefully using the same criteria applied by the products, buyers, and end users. Smart suppliers also analyze the rivals who compete for the same business. However, it will be discussed by the next reporter in the next chapter. So, here's the executive summary of the topic to further understand or recap what we have discussed earlier. However, I will read it only since it's already discussed. So, let's start. Organizational buying is a decision-making process by which formal organization establish the need for purchased products and services, and then identify, evaluate, and choose among alternative brands and suppliers. The business market consists of all the organizations that acquire goods and services used in the production of other products or services that are sold, rented, or supplied to the others. Profit-seeking companies, institutions, and government agencies. Compared to consumer markets, business markets generally have fewer and larger buyers, a closer customer-supplier relationship, and more geographically concentrated buyers. Demand in the business market is derived from demand in the consumer market and fluctuates with the business cycle. Nonetheless, the total demand for many goods and services is quite price inelastic. business marketers need to be aware of the role of professional purchasers and their influencers, the need for multiple sales calls, and the importance of direct purchasing, reciprocity, and the leasing. Three types of buying situation are the straight rebuy, the modified rebuy, and the new task. System buying is a practice in which the buyer wants to purchase a total solution to its problem from one seller. The buying center is the decision-making unit of buying organization. It consists of initiators, users, influencers, deciders, approvers, buyers, and gatekeepers. To influence the buying center, marketers must be aware of the environmental, organizational, interpersonal, individual, and cultural factors. The buying process consists of 8 stages called buy phases. Number 1, problem recognition. Number 2, general need description. Number 3, product specification. Number 4, supplier search. Number 5, proposal solicitation. Number 6, supplier selection. Number 7, order routine specification. And number 8, performance review. Successful marketers anticipate and provide what buyers are seeking in each buy phase, increasing the chance that they will be selected and ultimately build a long-term relationship with their customers. That's the end of our report. Again, good morning, thank you, and God bless.